Welcome to Assignment on the BBC World Service. I'm Tim Hewell.
If they get out straight away, get hold of the consulate, or whoever, as quick as you can. Say we know they've got out.
Tal Afar, northern Iraq, August the 28th last year. The long battle to defeat the Islamic State group is almost over. Its fighters are facing death. They know the game's up for them, but they're desperate to get their families to safety.
I don't know who to surrender to. I would send them out, but there is shooting going on.
These are the last messages of a tall young man with an unkempt beard and a weak eye. Messages to his mother, far away in Russia. You can hear his wife crying behind him. It's a blazing hot Iraqi summer. Bombs are falling all around them. The caliphate that Nadar Efendiev travelled 1,000 miles to build is being blown to smithereens. Who now is going to take pity even on its women and children?
I would hand them over, even to the Kurds. But you can't hand anyone over to those animals. They've got no honor or conscience. They just rape women straight away.
He's from an organisation that itself has raped and murdered without mercy, so he can only expect payback in kind from his now triumphant enemies. For advice and comfort, he turns now, in what may be his last hours, to the mother he abandoned years ago.
He
said to me, if we can't get them out today, we'll have to break through. If we fail, we fail. But maybe we survive. Then there was no more contact.
So what kind of state of mind were you in when you heard these messages?
I thought
it was the last day of my life. Because my children are my life.
Medina Nuroyeva is telling me this as she looks out of the window of her tiny flat in Nalchik. It's in Kabardino-Balkaria, a mainly Muslim region of southern Russia. Outside, the rain is lashing down on other identical housing blocks. Medina's in her 50s. She's got short, dyed blonde hair, and she's got an expression I can best describe as warm but defiant. We're meeting for the first time face to face, but I've been talking on the phone to her for a long time, and also to other Russian mothers whose children, mainly whose daughters, went or were taken to join Islamic State. They started calling me soon after the defeat of IS, and they were asking me desperately for any help in finding them. Thousands of fighters joined IS from the former Soviet Union, and they took their families with them. Now, many of those men are probably dead. But what about the women and children? 2,000 of them from Russia alone have simply disappeared. It's an extraordinary mystery. So Assignment this week on the BBC World Service is the story of my attempt to find them.
Это мой внук, это мой мальчик, который родился там, в Сирии.
This is my grandson, my little boy. He was born there in Syria in 2015.
So he's nearly 3, but you've never seen him, have we? Естественно, его никогда не видел.
Только по видео.
Only on videos and photos.
So the video that Medina's playing shows Nadar, her son, kissing Talha, that's her grandson, goodnight. And his wife, Aisha, is laughing in the background. Looking at this, you'd almost think that they could just be a happy family anywhere. But this is Iraq, where they moved from Syria, under the black flag of IS. And I've been shown so many photos and videos like this now, sent back from the caliphate to doting grandmothers, that, a bit like them, I've almost started to be dulled to the reality of Islamic State.
Скоро, очень скоро, кровь прольется морем, кафирские глотки дрогнут от ножей.
This is an IS recruiting video in Russian. Medina's son Nadar must have seen it. The song goes, soon a sea of blood will flow, and Well, what you actually see is simply beheadings. Actually, I can't watch it. It makes me feel physically sick. So Nadar tucks his son up in bed every night, gives him a big kiss, but all the time he's attracted to this sort of thing. He went to join a very, very violent organisation.
Он уехал туда жить со своей семьей.
He went there to have a life with his family. And what's more, I don't think he went because he wanted to. They were forced to leave. Because people who started to practice Islam weren't wanted by our authorities. They were really persecuted.
What Medina says is that her son was taken in and tortured by the police simply because he grew a long beard and went to the mosque. And that's why he left. Well, I've investigated those kind of cases myself before in this very region, Kabardino-Balkaria, and they do happen. But I'm still not sure that Medina is giving me the full story. In any case, Aisha, her daughter-in-law, didn't like it in Syria and Iraq.
Она жаловалась и говорила, что и страшно, и детям страшно.
She used to complain that she was scared. The children were scared. But my son, he didn't say anything. Then she told me if he had ever said anything about that and he had been overheard, they could even have executed him.
So why did Aisha herself go there? Well, what mothers in southern Russia say over and over again is that their daughters were simply tricked.
This is my Seda when she was still at home.
I'm in Chechnya now, another Muslim part of the North Caucasus, and another mother, Malika Inarkayeva, is showing me a video of her daughter Seda. Seda's got long black hair, pouting red lips, jeans and a tight t-shirt.
She loved anything with a brand name. Bags, clothes, shoes. They're still here. What she left at home. I could tell you the story of every single thing she had bought.
But that was several years ago. Now, Malika can hardly bear even to look at the video. Malika's not as brisk as that other mother, Medina. But most of the time, she's just utterly worn down by the struggle to find her daughter.
We're just an ordinary Chechen family. Really ordinary. She's my oldest, my only daughter. So she grew up, went to university, got married, had a daughter of her own. Then she and her husband went on holiday to Turkey. 2 weeks later, she got in touch again on WhatsApp. She cried for a long time. She was just crying. And then she said, "Mom, we're in Syria." For me, the world fell apart at that moment.
Seda's husband, Yunus, told her that you could only study Islam properly in the Islamic State. He promised they'd come back soon, but they didn't. Yunus was killed. Seda wanted to go home at that point, but she was told her daughter belonged to the caliphate and she'd have to stay, so Seda stayed too. She married another Chechen fighter for protection, had another child with him, but then he was also killed. So Seda was alone in a foreign country with a toddler and a 6-month-old baby as Iraqi forces closed in on IS's last stronghold in Mosul. What that means is that she was at the epicenter of one of the most merciless hand-to-hand, face-to-face battles of modern times.
On the 10th of July, she got in touch at 7 in the morning and she wrote, "Mom, are you there?" She usually started with, "Mom, are you there?" I keep all her messages. She was always changing her status, and her last status update was, "At night I dream of the mountains, they're calling me home."
Я смотрю в окно.
She wrote, Mom, I'm looking out of the window and the moon's so big. It's the same moon I'm looking at here and you are looking at there.
What else did she say?
Она сказала, что в метрах 500
She said that even 500 meters away, she could see the blasts. Houses were being blown up right next to her, really close. And after that, we lost the connection.
At the end of the battle for West Mosul, almost every house was in ruins. Can I talk to Malika first? Yes, Malika. That's me talking to Malika on Skype from Iraq last October. There'd been no word from Sieda or the other missing Russian women and children, so I was going round Iraq trying to find anyone who might have seen them. We've got all the photos, so tomorrow, when we go to Mosul, we will show all the photos. But I'm afraid I didn't discover very much on that trip. The Iraqi authorities had announced that they were holding 1,400 foreign IS women and children in a jail, but they wouldn't give out any names, not even to relatives. And all my attempts to get access to the jail ended in failure. Then, in December, the faintest of voices, a single voice from an unknown location, broke that silence.
There are about 200 of us here, all Russian speakers.
It's the voice of a woman called Roshana. She's sending a message to her sister in Moscow from somewhere in Iraq.
Why are they holding us prisoner? I can't stand it anymore. It's so cold here. They don't even give us proper blankets.
Those messages and more from Roshana got passed on to all the relatives of missing mothers and to me. She explained that she and the other captive women had had all their phones taken off them when they were taken prisoner, but she'd now briefly been lent a phone by one guard because he'd taken pity on her, even though she had to keep whispering in case anyone else overheard. She said that those 200 women and children were being held in 2 really squalid rooms, only one bathroom and toilet, sleeping on a concrete floor, beaten if they complained. And they were terrified that their Iraqi captors would sell them into prostitution in Iran.
They interrogated us. Some Iranian man came and videoed us. That's the only time we've ever been taken outside.
But where exactly were they? And who was holding them? The next whispered clue came from another woman in the group, Aisha. Remember, she's the wife of Medina's son Nadar, the one I last heard crying in the background on that voice message when he was trying to get her safe passage through enemy lines.
We are near Mosul in a village. We are prisoners of Hash al-Shabi. The main guy is called Abu Jafar.
Hash al-Shabi is the name of a militia force, mainly Shia, that's attached to the Iraqi army. They lost a lot of men fighting to defeat IS. When I heard that message, I wanted to go back to Iraq and confront that commander, Abu Jafar. But the question was, how dangerous would it be? And would I be putting the women he was holding at greater risk? Everything I'd heard suggested that Abu Jafar wasn't really the kind of guy I wanted to have tea with. But then I heard that the Russian authorities, of course the families were in contact with them too, had also learnt about Abu Jafar's captives, and they were putting pressure on the Iraqi government to move them into official custody. If that happened, I knew there might be even less chance to find them. So basically, I had to go without delay. I feel quite anxious now because this is a moment, really, we've been building up to for months and months. I've been talking to these women in Russia. They've been sending me pictures of their daughters. But how we phrase it with this commander is going to be very tricky. Obviously, he doesn't even know that we know that he's holding these women. We're going to have to start off talking about something completely different. I'm with Abu Jafar al-Shabaki. It's very nice to meet you. This is the guest room. Abu Ja'far's shorter and stockier than the guards who are standing around him with Kalashnikovs. They're in camouflage fatigues. He's in a black shirt, black trousers, and he's unarmed, unless there's a hidden revolver. You're a very, very educated person. When you're having tea with a warlord, unctuousness is always the safest approach. Eventually, though, I had to come to the point. There's something else I want to ask you. What we understand is that there's a group of people, women and children, ISIS women and children, and you've been looking after them. Is that right?
From where you have this information?
I have to hand it to him. I've never had such a strong sense of a jaw dropping. But his dropped silently. He didn't show it. His expressionless face stayed expressionless.
I don't know. I don't have... this matter belongs to Al-Hajj al-Sha'bi, intelligence. It's not belong to me. They will be moved to Baghdad in a few days.
Yes.
But they got very, very, very good place. They've been like a hotel, 5-star hotel.
Wow.
Yes.
Of course, I did ask to see them, and he said, maybe, if I came back in a couple of days. So that's what I did. But by then, his prisoners had been bussed in dead of night to a government jail in Baghdad. That meant, though, that he couldn't harm them anymore. So when I saw him again, I was free to ask what I liked. I know you said they were in very good conditions, high 5-star conditions.
Yes, you can't see them.
But that's not right, is it? Because we've seen messages from them. It was cold, it was wet, they had one toilet, one bathroom for 200 people.
No.
But
this is not truth.
But we've seen messages from them. They got messages to their relatives in Russia. We've seen those messages.
How you can...
But it's terrible. I mean, they describe, how the guards were beating them.
This is wrong.
They're sleeping on a concrete floor.
No.
100 people in one room. Children have got pneumonia.
No.
And we're talking about children.
No.
I don't know what the women did, but we're talking about children.
This is not right.
Also, in those messages, they say that you were running that place, that you were keeping them captives.
No.
Also, I have to say, in those messages, they say, we are afraid that you are going to sell us to Iran.
No, this is a wrong idea. Look, if you want to see them and to have an interview with them, and you will see the truth, you can go to Baghdad and see them. And you will see them in very good condition.
In fact, it's almost impossible to get into an Iraqi jail. We tried and tried. But at least we know, only thanks to those voice messages, that Aisha, Medina's daughter-in-law, is there and that she's alive. But what about her husband, Nadar? Did he escape that noose that was gradually tightening around the remaining IS fighters? Medina never heard her son's voice again after the 28th of August. But she did see him in a video filmed a day later that she was sent on social media. It shows a long line of IS prisoners. They're ragged, dishevelled, terrified, standing under the blazing sun after they've surrendered to Kurdish forces, the Peshmerga. One of the guards goes down the line and he's taunting them, asking where they're from.
You come? Where do you come now? Huh?
Then, at the very end, there's that tall young man with the unmistakable weak eye.
Where do you go? Russia? Russia.
In that expletive, you can really feel the revulsion that so many in Iraq feel towards those foreign fighters, men who volunteered to go and destroy someone else's country. And then the video ends.
It was right here.
So we're now approaching the village of Sahel al-Malakha. It's a rather god-forsaken village in the middle of bare hills, very stony ground here, and actually we can see the spot where this video of the lineup of prisoners, of IS prisoners, must have been taken. It turns out there's no one here now who was there then who knows where Nadar and his comrades were taken. But just before I came to Iraq this time, a report came out from Human Rights Watch, the research and campaigning group, about a grisly discovery they'd made only a few miles further up that road, deeper into what was then Kurdish-held territory. To get there, we had to talk our way through several roadblocks and follow a series of ever remoter tracks.
What?
What did you say?
On
What
the
did you
right
say?
side.
What did you say?
Here are the mass graves.
Here are the mass graves.
Yes, on the right side, look. On the
Really?
right, 50 meters. Just 50 meters.
And now they're saying if we go forward, then the Peshmerga will attack us. Wow.
Peshmerga, they will attack us because they will, if we go forward, they will saw us and then we'll get stuck.
Well, you can imagine we kept that visit brief, but I had to see. Now I've got out of the car, it's completely obvious that this is the site that we were looking for. Basically, in the middle of a completely empty, bare, arid plain. There are mounds of earth in a long, long line. You can see that a ditch has been dug here, and then the earth has been bulldozed back. These, I think, are the mass graves where probably hundreds of ISIS fighters who surrendered are now buried. The Kurdish authorities deny that their forces carried out any summary executions, but witnesses say they did. There were days and days of shooting, it seems, night after night. Scores of men were taken out and shot in the head. This is Russia again, a few weeks later. I'm climbing up the very scruffy, dark stairs in Medina's block of flats. She lives on the 5th floor and the lift's not working. There's a lot of rubbish here and graffiti. The first time I met her, after I came back from Iraq, I didn't mention that trench in the floodplain of the Tigris. And I don't want to now on this second visit either. But actually, of course, Medina already knows. It's not surprising, I suppose. She spends her whole life on the internet and social media, searching for any scrap of information that might help find her son. And then, you saw this picture. You saw this picture.
You mean the mass grave?
Куда всех расстрелянных. Ну, я так полагаю, это большое.
With everyone they'd shot. It must have been a lot of people, but we don't know how many altogether were taken prisoner. So there's no means of knowing whether they were all shot there or not.
You believe that Nadar is still alive? То есть вы верите, что Надар еще жив?
Я хочу верить в это. Я хочу в это верить.
I want to believe that. I want to believe it. But we don't know the truth. Why doesn't Iraq give us lists so that every mother can at least find out whether she should be crying over her son or rejoicing that he's still alive? And if our sons are in jail, I want to know what conditions they're in. Even in jail, they should have basic rights.
I think for many of our listeners, when you talk about human rights and you talk about respect for people, this will just be very hard to understand because they'll say Islamic State didn't respect anybody's rights. It was the exact opposite of any form of human rights.
Хорошо, я поняла. Ну, конечно же, все то,
Okay, I understand. Of course, everything that IS did, I don't approve of. But I just want to say something about who IS were. IS, it was created by America. It's no secret that its leaders, it was American policy. They created it. They sent them there.
I didn't get into a political argument with her, but I was disappointed by that answer. And after talking to a lot of Russian mothers like Medina, I think they don't understand. They don't really understand what Iraqis suffered under IS, the rapes, the beheadings, the permanent destruction of entire historic communities. But I suppose, how could they? They haven't been there. And for them, there's a simpler truth. They love their children and they want them back. We've just opened the wardrobe in Sieda's room and there's a whole row of dresses, black sequins dress here, a denim jacket, and she's just saying she keeps these things here. She likes to look at them every morning as a memorial to Sieda. Well, these are very nice dresses.
И как Седа говорила, это все бренд.
And as Seda used to say, they're all brand name things. They're all her things.
Даже ее парфюмерия сохранилась.
Even all her perfume I've kept.
Но не может человек, который хочет уйти туда, одеваться.
Someone who wanted to go there couldn't have worn clothes like these.
It's now more than 9 months since Malika got that last call from Sieda. Some captured IS wives are now about to be put on trial in Iraq, but there are still no lists, either of survivors or of the dead. Malika and other mothers haven't even heard from the Red Cross. They're imploring me to go back to Iraq a third time, and I want to. But what would I find if I did? The doors are closed. The graves are covered over.
Я не оправдываю никого.
I don't make any excuses for anyone who took our children there, took their wives, and took their children, their completely innocent children. But I just want my daughter to come home.
Дочь вернулась домой.
That's all from Assignment. It was presented by me, Tim Hewell, and produced by Mike Gallagher and Nick Sturdy. For more stories, go to bbcworldservice.com/assignment.